It was a perfect Tuesday morning, all pine and sun-drenched silence, the kind of quiet you can only find 100 miles from the nearest city. That quiet was shattered by the sound of a luxury sedan, tires spitting gravel as it pulled up to my gate. A woman, impeccably dressed but with a face that looked like it was carved from entitlement, stepped out and declared, without a single shred of irony, "This property is no longer yours. My son deserves it more." My stomach dropped faster than a rock in a well. Could this really be happening? I felt the familiar heat of the Texas sun on my skin, but it was nothing compared to the fiery rage suddenly pooling in my gut. Her name was Mrs. Du Bois, a recent arrival from some suburban utopia who'd bought the 30 acres adjacent to my family's ranch. She had the audacity of someone who believed the world existed to serve them. She explained, her voice as sharp as glass, that her vision for the area included a gated community with a little something for everyone. My 100-year-old ranch, passed down through 5 generations, was apparently the centerpiece of that vision. It was a perfect spot for her son's equestrian retreat and luxury golf course. I just stood there, speechless for a moment, the taste of dust and disbelief on my tongue. "Ma'am," I finally managed to say, my voice a strained whisper, "this ranch is all I have. It's my legacy." She simply scoffed, her perfectly manicured hand waving me away. "Oh, please, a dirt plot and a dilapidated house? I'll have my lawyers contact you." She turned and got back into her car, leaving me alone in the dust motes and the ringing silence of her words. A long, weary sigh escaped my lips. Couldn't believe it. This was an honest-to-God Karen. I could still smell her expensive perfume hanging in the air, a sickeningly sweet contrast to the earthy scent of my land. The first few weeks were a blur of phone calls and legal jargon. Her lawyers sent letters, each one more aggressive than the last, claiming some obscure easement and threatening a lawsuit for impeding development. My own lawyer, a kind but overworked man named Frank, looked more and more stressed each time we talked. "She's serious," he told me one afternoon. "She's got money and she's not afraid to use it. Claims her son, who's some kind of real estate mogul, has a divine right to this land." Can you believe the gall? The stress was suffocating. Couldn't sleep. The creak of the porch swing, once a comfort, now sounded like a death knell. Every rusty hinge and splintered piece of wood felt like a liability, something she would use against me. The simple pleasure of walking the fence line, of feeling the rough wood beneath my calloused hands, was gone, replaced by a constant, nagging fear. Was this it? Was 100 years of my family's toil about to be wiped out by some rich lady's whim? I found myself staring out across the fields, imagining the bulldozers, the perfect green of the fairways replacing the wild, golden grasses. My heart ached with a pain so deep it was physical. Then came the summons. We were going to court. Frank told me to prepare for the worst. "Judges in this county are used to seeing land disputes," he said. "But this is different." Her argument, as ridiculous as it is based on the emotional appeal that her son has earned this land through his success. It's a twisted logic, but she's going for a Hail Mary, hoping the judge sympathizes with her. My hands shook as I held the paper. I felt like I was drowning. But then, a thought struck me. I remembered my grandfather, a man of few words but immense wisdom, telling me stories about this ranch. He had mentioned something once, something about how this land could never be sold. "It's not just land, boy," he'd said. "It's a trust." I dismissed it as an old man's sentimental musing at the time, but now it felt like a life raft. I called Frank, my voice filled with a desperate, new energy. "I think I found something. The family trust." His tone changed from resignation to cautious curiosity. "What trust?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted, "but my grandfather mentioned it. It's in the old family records." We spent the next 2 weeks digging through dusty boxes in the attic, the scent of old paper and mothballs thick in the air. Finally, we found it. A leather-bound document, yellowed with age, detailing the establishment of the Whitaker Legacy Ranch Preservation Trust by my great-great-grandfather. The terms were specific, ironclad, and unbelievable. The land was to be kept whole, passed down only to direct descendants, and used for agricultural purposes in perpetuity. It was a failsafe, a final twist from the grave. A breath I didn't know I was holding finally escaped me. The courtroom was sterile and cold, a stark contrast to the open fields of my home. Mrs. Du Bois sat across from me, her nose in the air, a smug little smile playing on her lips. Her lawyer spoke first, his voice dripping with condescension as he painted me as a greedy, uncooperative land squatter, standing in the way of a brilliant young man's destiny. My blood boiled. He argued that my property was holding up a project that would bring prosperity and jobs to the region. As he spoke, he gestured with his hands, like a man conducting a symphony of lies. I just stared at him, my heart pounding against my ribs, waiting for my turn. When Frank finally rose, he was calm and collected. "Your Honor," he began, "we have here not just a property dispute, but a matter of historical preservation." He then unveiled the trust document. The court fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Mrs. Du Bois's smile evaporated. Her eyes went wide with pure, unadulterated shock. Frank read the key clauses aloud, the words echoing with the weight of my ancestors. The land shall not be sold, gifted, or otherwise transferred to any party outside the direct Whitaker family line. Furthermore, the land is to be used exclusively for agricultural purposes, forever. He then turned and looked directly at Mrs. Du Bois's flustered lawyer. "Your client's proposed golf course, Your Honor, would be in direct violation of this historical trust." The final nail in the coffin was Frank's next statement. Furthermore, the trust specifies that if anyone attempts to violate these terms, the property and any adjacent land they own will be transferred to a public park foundation and maintained as a public space for perpetuity. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Mrs. Du Bois's face went white. She had been so focused on taking my land that she had never done the proper legal research, and had never considered that the very law she sought to use could be turned so catastrophically against her. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a look of quiet admiration in her eyes, hammered her gavel down. Case dismissed. Mrs. Du Bois let out a choked sound, a mixture of rage and disbelief. Her karma had come calling, and it was a cold, bitter debt. She had not only failed to steal my land, but her own adjacent property was now at risk of being seized and turned into a public park. Her face contorted, a mask of sheer entitlement and fury, and she stormed out of the courtroom, her heels clicking a furious rhythm on the polished floor. I just stood there, the weight of 1,000 generations lifting from my shoulders. It wasn't just a legal victory. It was a victory for justice, for history, and for the simple, honest value of a home earned and protected. My land wasn't just a dirt plot, and it wasn't just a house. It was a story, and today, that story got to have a very happy, very righteous ending. And that, I thought with a small smile as I walked out into the Texas sun, was a lesson not even a high-priced lawyer could teach her.